Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Ghost here, and today I am bringing you guys another comparison video between the QBZ and KRIG. And I wanted to make this comparison video because I've been seeing the QBZ get a lot of unnecessary hate towards it. Because people think that this weapon is like a pea shooter and isn't that good, but man, ever since the update, the mid-season update, this QBZ, bro, like it's a monster. And I'm just kind of shocked that not a lot of people were talking about it. There's some people that are starting to begin the conversation of the QBZ, but a lot of people just have the wrong impression of it. And today, I want to hopefully change the perspective of you guys towards the QBZ, because I'm telling you guys, this gun is a monster. But before we get into that, I want to say, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 2,000. We're like about 200 away, maybe a little bit less, but you know, any sub helps, and I'm very appreciative for all of them. Also, you guys can do me a favor, follow my Twitch channel. We are very close to 200. We're like, what, 3 away? So, you know, I greatly appreciate it if you do. And, man, with that being said, let's get into this comparison. And here we have the recoil pattern for the QBZ, which, as you can see, is really straight. This has to be one of the straightest recoil patterns that I've ever seen. I know there's probably other weapons that have a similar recoil pattern, but off the top of my head, I cannot really recall them. But this weapon, man, the recoil on this is pretty much non-existent. And if it's able to compete with the KRIG, I think one of the biggest factors that it has to have is that little to no recoil. But I will say it's not a completely zero recoil weapon at a certain range, like really a long range. The recoil kind of gets a little bit weird. Not as bad as the M4, but it's very easy, you know, to lose control at those ranges. But overall, weapon's very solid for that. Definitely gives a KRIG a run for its money. And I don't know why this weapon is just so underrated. A lot of people have a bad impression of this weapon, which I don't really know where that stems from. Well, I mean, I kind of do, because prior to this mid-season update, if you would have asked me what I thought about the QBZ, I would have told you it was like a above-average weapon. I haven't really had a lot of runs with this weapon prior to this update. Like, I remember using it when, you know, the integration occurred, and then like after that I might have used it 1 or 2 more times and never really gotten in the groove with it. But now I would argue that's one of my favorite ARs, and I just am surprised that this weapon gets a lot of hate, because I feel like a lot of the way people think about it is just incorrectly, especially now with the new update. This is basically a new QBZ. A lot of these weapons are completely new, and the fact that this weapon, I just feel like people don't give it a chance, because they just have formulated the whole opinion on it, and they just don't really want to give it a chance. Which, again, I really don't know where it stems from. It could be from the fact that prior to this season update, the ground with QBZ might have sold a lot of people, and people just kind of built their assumptions on that. And for me, I can't really say anything bad about the QBZ. Off the ground, it's always treated me nice, and it's always made me want to use it, because I've always been able to fry with it. And now that I've gotten an actual opportunity to use it, I can see that this weapon is a monster. And when we get into the stats later, you're going to be very surprised to see how similar it is to the KRIG, and the fact that it gets unwarranted hate is just like insane to me, especially considering how close it resembles the KRIG. But anyways, man, this QBZ, bro, a weapon that I hope gets a little bit more time in the spotlight. I hope this weapon actually becomes meta, because I think this could be a top 3 AR in the game. I know I mentioned in my last video like the M4, I could maybe consider it, but I also mentioned that I needed more time to explore other primary options, and here I am exploring other primary options. And I gotta be honest, bro, this QBZ could even be like a number 2, even number 1, just because it just has so much things that makes this gun so good. Like, the fire rate is slightly faster than the KRIG, not like crazy, like literally when you see the stats, bro, like it's not like some crazy advantage. It's literally very minimal, but even that minimal difference is enough to be able to be a competitor to that weapon. And the damage, very similar. And man, what can I say, bro? This weapon is just insane. And yeah, man, with that being said, actually, let's just get into the KRIG and the stats. Then we have the recoil pattern for the KRIG. It kind of skips a little bit. I apologize for that. You know, PlayStation always being weird. But as you guys can see, this recoil pattern is very similar until it gets to like the end, where it kind of like hooks a little bit to the right. But you know, this gun, we all know, very no recoil weapon, very powerful weapon. And in general, like in terms of the long range battle for these weapons, like this is 2 weapons that you can't really pick one over the other. You know, for comfortability stuff, you might want to say that KRIG is like the better, or even the QBZ. But like for me personally, both of the weapons are very solid choices at range. I don't really have like a necessary preference for one over the other in terms of that department, or even just to say that one is significantly better than the other, because they both do their jobs at range really well. Now, when we talk about like close range and medium range, honestly, I would probably put the QBZ ahead, of the KRIG, considering like how the damages match up, the fire rates, and just it being very similar to it. I would definitely put the QBZ over the KRIG. And again, the mobility and just handling of the QBZ is a lot. I guess to me, it's a lot better than the QBZ. I feel like the type. Oh, not the type, but I mean, technically it is a type. But the QBZ is like a more hybrid weapon where like you could use it in every range, whereas the KRIG is more like a long range weapon. You could use it medium to close range, but you would have more success with the QBZ. But anyways, man, with that being said, let's get into some statistics because I know, we're all waiting for that. So to start things off, I want to talk about the fire rate, like I mentioned a little bit already. The QBZ has a 679 RPM, while the KRIG has a 652 RPM. And the difference right there obviously isn't too significant. It's literally like not even a 30 RPM difference. But that little difference right there could determine a gunfight by like one bullet. It might seem minimal, but I'm telling you, bro, like that one difference, bro, can have a big impact on a gunfight between a QBZ and KRIG. And now this is where it's interesting. Again, this is where I think should put away all your dots at the QBZ because you just need to listen to this. So for damage, the QBZ at the head from 0 to 30. Okay, hold on. Let me just restart. From 0 to 31 meters, the QBZ does 42 damage to the head, does 33 to the chest, and 30 to the stomach, and then 28 to the extremities. Now that's actually the first time that I've seen a gun actually do different damages to the stomach and chest. There's probably other weapons again out there, but this is for me my first time seeing this. But regardless, in comparison to the KRIG has a 45 headshot, 33 chest and stomach, and then 30 extremities. That's from 0 to 38 meters, so about the same range. As you guys can see, the difference between the two is really not that much. That's like 1 to 2 bullets, where, like, if you guys recall in my M4 video, that like the difference there was pretty significant. In this case, it's not that crazy, and to be honest, you really shouldn't feel too crazy of a difference when you're using a QBZ over the KRIG. And it actually kind of just baffles my mind that these guns are very similar to damage, and people still consider the QBZ terrible, where the KRIG, the weapon that is probably the most dominant weapon in the game right now, has these statistics, and the QBZ is one of those weapons that's very close to it. And like the C58, I could understand, because that gun, especially at headshots, the gun is a monster. But like the QBZ, a more like more calm down weapon. Like the fact that it's very close to the KRIG and gets no love is just mind-boggling to me. And now moving on to the longer ranges. So for the QBZ from 31 meters and up, the headshot damage is 36, chest is 28, stomach is 26, and the extremities are 24. While the KRIG at 38 meters and above, it's 38 to the head, 28 to both the chest and stomach, and 26 to the extremities. Again, bro, like very similar damage profiles. Like I don't know about like the damage drop off, but listen, bro, the fact that these weapons are very similar, and to be honest, like if there was a damage drop off between like the QBZ and KRIG, like it's very not that noticeable, because I've had a lot of success with the QBZ. I've used it a lot, and I just grown to really love this weapon. Just complete opposite opinion on it than from what I had in the past. And I'm telling you guys, if you guys give it a chance, you're gonna also see a change of heart, because this weapon, bro, it's literally like, I wouldn't say like it's a better KRIG. I think it's definitely a very strong competitor to the KRIG. Probably one of the most strongest competitors, very similar weapons to the KRIG. Because I think like the C58 is obviously like in competition. It's like arguably, not even arguably, undoubtedly a top 3 AR at the moment. But like the C58 isn't as similar to the KRIG as the QBZ is. Although some might argue it is, but to me, the QBZ is definitely a lot similar to the KRIG than the C58. And if you're like bored of the KRIG or something, bro, I'm telling you, man, this QBZ is definitely the alternative option that I would recommend to you. I was starting to kind of feel weird about the KRIG. I felt like the KRIG was letting me down a lot, and I don't know, I just decided to use this type or QBZ, I apologize, and man, I was just surprised that I found this gem, because again, like no one's really talking about it. I see not that many people talk about it, and it's just insane, because I think that this weapon is up next. If the KRIG receives a theoretical nerf, because I think the KRIG actually might end up receiving a nerf eventually, whether it's a recoil nerf, maybe a little damage nerf. I think the QBZ might be up next. And to be honest, if we're talking about nerfs, I think the most realistic time frame from when this nerf might occur will be in the Season 5 update. I don't really want any more nerfs to happen, because I don't want this game to become more higher time to kill, because trying to shoot a million bullets into somebody is just starting to get very, very annoying. I've definitely died and lost some kills because normally I would think I'd get the kill, but then it just doesn't go the way I think it is, because I get the kill. And to be honest, I think all it would take for the QBZ to like potentially dethrone the KRIG would just be a recoil nerf, just like how the FARA was. I mean, the FARA did receive a damage nerf, but I think the KRIG more than anything needs a recoil nerf. I don't think the damage, like I think the damage is solid. I don't think it really calls for a nerf. I think it just requires a little bit more recoil, because you know the no recoil high damage combination is pretty deadly. You can argue the same thing for the QBZ, because the QBZ is about the same as the KRIG, but you know we're gonna leave it up to the devs. We'll see what happens in the next updates. But anyways, man, let me know what you guys think about the QBZ. How do you guys personally feel about it, and it potentially being possibly the next best AR, and where do you guys personally rank it in your AR rankings? And yeah, man, thank you guys for watching. See you guys later, and I'm out. Peace.